This is Real Conversations with Anita, a mental health podcast brought to you by Iltizam by Equinus and MIASA Malaysia.
And it's also uncomfortable right now as I'm sharing this with you because I've never shared it, to be honest, in my 10 years, going through my mental struggles. But
how do you speak to a person that has,
So
a mental
important.
health issue?
Sure.
Words definitely matter.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you don't know what to say, then just be quiet.
Right.
Don't judge the book by its cover tu memang nampak macam cliche, but that is the right thing to say. You tengok semua orang yang sakit mental health issue ni, semua perfect.
Where do I start? Because how do you talk about something that is probably one of the most painful times of your life and kind of put it in words, because they're
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to Real Conversations with Anita, a mental health podcast brought to you by Iltizam by Equinus and MIASA Malaysia. And today we will be continuing our conversation in unpacking taboos surrounding mental health. And for today's discussion, we will be touching specifically on postpartum depression and also psychosis, which obviously is not being discussed enough, particularly postpartum psychosis, and inaccurately as well, especially in media reporting, which unfortunately reinforces stigma and is also truly counterproductive with the much awareness going on in the area of mental health. Now, for today, to help us unpack these taboos and providing critical insights are two individuals or care partners to appear living with postpartum psychosis. With us today, please welcome Dr. Sharifah Suraya Al-Barakbah and also Encik Azlan Hatim bin Abdullah. Thank you so much, guys, for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
And how are you? Thank you. And how are both of you doing today?
Doing good. It'll be better as we speak.
Yes, inshallah, alhamdulillah. Dr. Suraya?
I'm good. We'll see what happens. I think once it flows, it'll go.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Suraya is a dentist with a private dental clinic in Mid Valley, and also Encik Azlan is a customer onboarding lead at a local fintech company. Thank you so much to the both of you. Now, before we delve into today's discussion, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Dr. Suraya's intention in being with us today for our podcast. Dr. Suraya specifically approached me with a heartfelt concern about the lack of attention and also coverage given to the topic of postpartum psychosis. And of course, as we all know, many of us know, specifically in the field of mental health, where such inaccuracy of reporting does create a lot of stigma or inaccurate understanding when it comes to this topic, and also minimizing the pain and struggles of many who struggle specifically with postpartum psychosis. So Dr. Suraya expressed her desire to shed light on this important issue and obviously brought Encik Azlan, who is her brother-in-law, to share their own experiences as a care partner. So for your passion and dedication to raise awareness, we thank you and we applaud the effort. Thank you so much, guys. Now, so before we actually talk about this, if you can provide with us some background about yourselves and also your role, specifically in the scene, what maybe encouraged you, the both of you, to talk about this openly? And of course, this is not an easy topic. We don't hear about this often enough, and not from the person or the individual struggling, and also not from care partners or caregivers. So maybe Dr. Suraya, if you want to begin.
Yes. So I am the sister to the peer, and she was having a hard time when she returned to work.
Right.
And then that's where it all started, because my sister would always confide in me if she needed to, or in the future, I hope as well. And then it started from there, and didn't realize actually it was the postpartum thing. I thought it was more of an anxiety returning back to work.
Okay.
It was just work related stress. It might not have anything to do with PPD at all, or PPP even. That's really never what we even would think.
Right. So what were the things that she shared with you initially that made you believe it was more of anxiety rather than psychosis?
I was away for a conference, in and out.
Right.
And then I would need to speak to her up until about 3, 4 in the morning. And I noticed that, she kept repeating a few things. And I could see the way she expressed herself was quite timid rather than being more expressive. It felt that way.
Right.
And then I felt like, I think my sister is about to have a breakdown probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I even sort of like bought her a diary. While I was at the conference, I thought, I think I need to start her on a journal to see how she's like if she writes those thoughts down.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just started from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, Encik Azlan?
As for me, obviously, I'm the husband to the person who had to go an episode of a mental health episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the motivation to be here is definitely, I would fall in the category of people who were quite oblivious and ignorant to such situations. Okay, I'm aware of mental health situations. I've seen people who are bogged down by depression. Yet I have not seen what I saw, what my wife had to went through, and that was such a steep learning curve for me.
Right.
Okay, and as per our conversation prior to this, I would be one of those who would, come up with such statements as, toughen up, or just think positive. Things are going to be all right. Maybe you just need some rest.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. All right. So I would fall in that category, and slowly realizing that it is more than that. And after seeing how severe such situations could be, and how tough it was, even with support that we had inside the family, I think the drive to be here is to just bring our voices to the masses. Just hopefully one day, if anybody were to look for resources for people who are going through a similar journey, it's there.
Yeah.
Because I was struggling to find what exactly is going on until I found a talk online on YouTube that was explaining something that sounds very similar to what she went through. And that's when the process of understanding started to come. So that is, I guess, one part of why I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Encik Azlan. I think it's so powerful what you just said. A couple of things. One, because you're a guy. 2, because you're a husband. And I think 3, with that realization that you yourself hold that stigma and being aware of it, but then moving on to the next phase, which is doing something about it. Not only doing something about to help your wife, but to bring about awareness. So this is something that we really hope that care partners and, individuals struggling with such conditions will come out to do. Because I think that shame makes us, it robs us from that recovery process. That's 1. But 2, it doesn't allow us to speak about it freely because, we feel afraid. There's, labels and a lot of things attached to such difficult or more complex conditions, I would say. Now, Dr. Suraya, for you yourself being the sister, how was it possible for you to have such insights to your sister's struggles?
So that's the thing. I'm a peer myself. And I had a hard time of quite eventful periods of my life.
Yeah.
So I started struggling probably at the age of 17. And then I moved away to the UK all by myself too. And then a very good dear friend, super senior, she was not even a uni student, she was already a doctor, a specialist. And she was like, I think you need to speak to someone. At first, just go to the GP, make sure you get something out of it, and then see what needs to be done. So from then on, I went to see a GP. A GP was very, very helpful. I didn't even think that, a GP could help and point me to the right directions. And then after that, at uni, I was offered a counselor.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, yes, it was a struggle, Do I really have to do this? I mean, maybe it's just part of growing up,
Yeah.
and being by all yourself all the way across the world. So it's part of it. but not really, because I knew I had to commit at some point because things were getting really bad.
What were your challenges like?
Mostly myself. It's actually me. Luckily, in the UK, the support is a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
It's not really a bad taboo back then. We're talking about 20 years ago.
I know.
Yeah, it's
a
20
long
years ago. It's a
time.
long time ago.
Yeah.
So I was exposed 20 years ago.
Mhm.
How would I know all these things, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes up a portion of your life during the day for you to talk to someone that you don't know, okay? And you have to tell them why you're there. I mean, you're there because you were told to be there and maybe it's good for you. So me going back and forth with counseling at first, and then my doctor actually started me on beta blockers, which is very common to regulate your heartbeat so that you're not too anxious, instead of putting me on anti-anxiety or antidepressants first.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a different approach actually. So
Okay.
beta blockers is actually to really regulate your heartbeat so that maybe at night, then you can get tired, then you can sleep better,
Okay.
rather than having anxiety, So that's that. And then obviously it hit like a peak point, or is it bottom point? And then specialists and psychiatrists came into picture. I realized that I need to do the work. And I realized actually I cannot keep living like this.
Yes.
It's tiring. If I can spend that much energy staying in one place, in a very dark place, I can do the same if I want to get out of it. So that's what I thought. With my sister, because I understand the pathway, really,
Yes.
of how to get help. But it took me years to understand.
So you were the shortcut for your sister.
I would...
It definitely was, because the onset of what happened to my wife happened really quickly. It happened within the first week of her returning back to work. Okay?
So this was after is it 3 months? 3 months.
It's
2
actually
months plus.
2 months after
2 months.
delivery, because we
okay.
took an early leave of 1 month.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 2 months.
2 months.
So the onset happened really quick, and without Dr. Suraya being there, because she immediately told us to go and see a psychiatrist. Prior to that, I could not tell a difference between a psychiatrist and psychologist even.
A lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
We can explain that.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that timely advice of immediately going to seek help
Yes.
really changed the trajectory of the story.
Definitely.
I think it could have been so different
Yes.
had it not been for Dr. Suraya.
And for many people,
Yeah.
that's typically what happens, because that help and treatment comes in really late.
Yeah.
So what were the symptoms like, Encik Azlan, that you saw or that you were aware of during that onset?
Okay, if I recall, this all happened in a span of 5 days.
5
About
days.
6 days actually.
6 days,
okay,
yeah.
From the first signs that I saw, after about a week back to work, okay, she started to feel a bit more anxious about work, and she already were harboring the thoughts of leaving work just a week after returning already. And she said she's not feeling it. Her work is not going back. It just makes her feel quite
She wanted
bad.
to quit.
Yeah, but that's where I came in. Oh, maybe you just need to. Maybe you just need to
Think
give it some-
positive.
Yeah, exactly.
No, even I did the same with my sister, because she
Yeah.
came to me to Mid Valley and let's have lunch. I was like, okay, let's have lunch.
Right.
So she wanted to talk, and she would, I think it was her first day at work at that time. And she already told me about leaving. And I was like, okay, I will support you, but let's not rush into this, because I know her.
Right.
She loves her work. I mean, the job is different, but in terms of like who she is as an architect, she loves
She's passionate
she's
about
very
it.
passionate about it. Like, I don't think that girl can sit still. I mean, she's my baby sister. I
Right.
don't know, she can't sit still, not doing anything.
Right.
Just maybe motherhood is also part of it, but she wants to enjoy her motherhood. But I know her in that way, right? So that was it. And then the changes a few days after that, it was
So
almost like
in the space of that 5 days, I mean, you can see her there. I mean, she's physically beside you, talking to you.
But she's not
But
quite there.
she's not quite there. I mean, the speech is not coherent. The thought process is not clear.
She was forgetful. She cannot retain information that you tell her maybe 10 minutes ago, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's constant paranoia, and she was starting to imagine scenarios that are definitely not realistic. Okay, so that slip happened, from one day to the next, to the next, to the next. And by the 5th day, she was not there anymore. Okay, and that's when I think she called, and then when we went to seek help immediately.
Okay. So maybe for our viewers and also listeners who are not quite familiar, specifically with postpartum psychosis, right? So with psychosis, we're talking about hallucinations, delusions, paranoia. So maybe definition of hallucination, specifically seeing things that are not there or not real to everyone else, real to the person who is seeing the things, listening or hearing things, or maybe smelling things that are not real as well. And also, like you said, maybe more disorganized speech, disorganized in terms of their thoughts as well. Now, Dr. Suraya, a little bit more adding on to that, how were you responding or supporting her during this period that you could see that she was going through such difficult symptoms and not having that realization or insights during the time?
I did what I have been doing based on years of treatment and therapy. Try to isolate some thoughts that are not related to each other.
Right.
Sort of like compartmentalizing, but also reassuring her what is real and what is not. Maybe it's just your thoughts, your feelings, but nothing has been said. It's certainly she was losing that emotional intelligence, and which is not very much like my sister. I did sort of like my own diagnostic tool. So I started writing in the journal that I gave her. Very simple questions, like, how do you feel today? Just answer these questions. I don't need you to write down anything that you want, since she can't literally start writing with her own thoughts. Just start by answering these questions I'm asking you. And then she started drawing something. And then I was like, okay, this is
not answering the question.
This is completely not. I think Azlan saw that, and Azlan got very scared because I only asked, how are you feeling today? She started drawing organization chart, and like, it was scary, Like my brother-in-law, just behind her, he got really scared. I think can I say it? Broke down?
I broke down.
Yeah, broke down.
During the early part. Still trying to control my cool and macho here.
It's scary, Even for myself, I was very scared. So I had to really hold it together, because it means that we're not even close enough to where she's at. We really, really need help. And then that morning where my sister just got to, expressing whatever thoughts that she had to minimum speech. Like really minimum speech. She barely spoke. She could even stand, right, or bring herself out of bed. It was quite bad. And then, so we set in like an appointment, emergency appointment. I said, straight away go to psychiatrist. Don't waste time. Because she needs proper medication, because she needs to sleep. Because
she hasn't been sleeping
well
during the time.
6 days. One part of this is that she lost quite a bit of sleep during that
5-6 days.
During 5-6 days, because she'll fall asleep around 10, and then sometimes at the bangun around 1 o'clock, and she's just sitting down on the bed. Okay.
Like
lost. And she's
not lucid.
Right. Encik Azlan, so before this, right, so prior to those 6 days, were there any signs at all, now that when you think back, do you think there was something that you missed as a care partner or some, family member, that maybe the symptoms were present? Because these symptoms come in way before, right? Do you know now what were the symptoms?
There were situations before she returned back to work. There were incidences where, she would be a bit frustrated, because trying to take care of the baby and also living in a house where there are people coming and going. I remember she was feeling quite annoyed or frustrated at one point, but I do not see any other signs prior to that.
So this was during the confinement period? During the confinement period, so this was your first baby, and then people were kind of visiting, so people were in and out. So that created some
A little bit of
Maybe she wanted to rest, but she wasn't able to.
yes, but she was still her. I was certain that she was still her.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she had a lot of support in taking care of the baby during the confinement period?
Yes,
Because
yes, we
it
have.
was
lot.
a home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good support.
Good
actually.
support. Okay. Yeah, we're just trying to set that scenario so that people can truly understand.
Yeah.
Because some mothers or some wives, as they're going through confinement, sometimes they are by themselves.
Yeah.
It's easier for people to fall into having postpartum depression, etc. So we want to see what kind of support was she getting during the time to really understand what happened. And then, as a husband and caregiver or care partner yourself, what were your maybe greatest challenges during the time? And then maybe now.
The toughest challenge for me is because my wife is my source of strength, as well as a partner who I conversate with every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all go through things during our working lives, right? So when I go home, this is the person that I will always share, the highs and lows of whatever I go through during the day.
Sounding board.
Yeah, so it's a place where I share almost everything that goes through what I have to go through on a daily basis. So the toughest part for me is watching that person who you perceive to be your strength to be slipping away and losing that person. Yeah. So there's a bit of a selfish element to this because I am losing something that I hold dearly too.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think going through a tough period without the person that I rely on is one of the toughest things that I have to come to terms with. Yeah.
How are you doing now?
Oh, much better. Much better. She's almost fully recovered, and I'm very happy to say that. Much better.
We'll go to that as well.
Sure.
What about you, Dr. Suraya, as a peer yourself? How has the situation of your sister affected your own mental health?
I was quite late to the boat because I think, you're in the survivor's mode.
Yeah.
You need to be in the survivor's mode for someone else to survive too, right?
Correct.
If not, you can't do the job. I think the hardest was just my sister, my baby sister. She's not like this. The things that I needed to do for her in such ways, a bit more private things like, no, my sister can do it herself. Why I shouldn't be doing this because she can do it,
Yeah.
So losing that essence of who she is, functionality, motor skills, speech, you're losing someone in front of you without them physically. They're still
She's
there.
there. She's there.
But she's not there.
Right.
Yeah, I only get a few seconds of her, or if we're lucky. Yeah, and then she goes away again. So I think that was the biggest challenge, feeling scared, scared, for her, and then scared
for everyone else.
for everyone else. Yeah, and then the baby as well. Luckily my mum was around too. So in that period of time, I think the three of us, me, Azlan, my mum, the three of us were really like this, okay, let's do this. Okay, my mum said, don't worry, I'll try and take care of the baby. We do half and half.
Need to give credit to Abba. So.
Oh, Abba also. True.
Abba, if you're watching,
Abba.
we're giving credit to you too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So the four of you.
Abba was actually quite, because he holds the corporate figure.
Yeah.
So anytime my sister needed to talk about it,
So he will come in. He'll
he'll come in. Yeah.
Internal audit is nothing. Internal audit is fine.
yeah.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And it repeats itself
It repeats.
10 times a day.
Yeah. My dad doesn't mind repeating, but to us, repeating is not a very normal thing to do.
Yep.
And then worrying about the worst. Because I know what's the worst. We all know, right? So that's the worry that I had almost every day. And she had a pattern, actually. She would text me every day at 3 to 4 a.m. It was like a fixed timing, If I'm not there, she'll text.
Those times jadi terbangun lah kan.
So what did she say at 3, 4 a.m.?
Oh, very random things. Or
Random, okay.
Random and obviously very unsettling thoughts.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. She always keeps repeating, she's depressed, she's depressed. Yeah. She's aware of it.
Yeah.
But other than that, actually she doesn't remember what she said. So that's one of the biggest ones. Not being able to retain information. It's a big red flag.
It is.
People should remember that, if you know the person and you see all these normal things, like the dates, the days, time, you told them 10 minutes ago and you have to repeat it again. Maybe you will get agitated, but hold that impatience for a little bit longer. There might be something there, and it was like that.
Right.
Yeah.
To be able to catch it, see these patterns, and then seek help and know better how to support. I think it was really amazing that as a family, all of you came together and kind of supported each other. It's always difficult when there's only one person supporting the person who is struggling, because then you get burned out. And then some people, then they too, their mental health are affected, and sometimes it develops into a clinical condition. So these are things that we want to, as much as possible, prevent. Thank you very much, Dr. Suraya and Encik Azlan. We will come back after this. We want to talk a little bit about what happened next with her seeing the psychiatrist and with the treatments and her recovery process as well. Thank you very much. We will be right back in Real Conversations with Anita, with Dr. Suraya and Encik Azlan right after this. Okay, so we spoke a lot about what your challenges are and what you guys went through at the onset of your sister and wife's condition. A little bit more on, Dr. Suraya, you mentioned about it's all in your head. And this is one of the things that, even for me as a peer, and a lot of what our peers experience are individuals struggling with mental health conditions. This is something we feel very stigmatizing when people say that, because it invalidates somewhat what we're going through. Because obviously, what is up here is so catastrophic, right? Sometimes it feels like your brain is trying to kill you. And so one of the things that we, would like to embark on is consent, right? This is big in the work that we do. One, we're stigma busters, of course. But two, everything that we do, we would like as much as possible, 100% of the time, for our peers to provide consent, because at the end of the day is their life. In whatever treatments that they receive, in any medication that they would like to, or the doctors would like to prescribe, so on and so forth. So of course, I'm sure our listeners and viewers out there are wondering whether your sister and your wife has consented, and how did she feel when you guys, wanted to embark on this journey of providing these awareness on her story and your journey together, supporting her in her recovery process?
So it started with on my end.
Yeah.
Mind you, for viewers, right? I'm single. I'm not married. I don't have a child. Okay. So if someone were to say you need to be a mom to understand, no, you just need to have
Be
enough.
human.
Yeah, exactly, right? I couldn't sleep that night. And then I read the comments. It's just so horrible, things like you don't deserve to be a mother, or, you're so high on drugs. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea. Because, yes, a normal mother would
Wouldn't
never
do
do that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And people who are on drugs won't do that either. I mean, maybe they're too high to even pick up anything.
Right.
This is actively doing something. It's almost like, it's almost dictated where she was going to do it and what she was going to do it. This is not normal.
Right.
So I understand, like, most people don't understand how some people do certain things, especially things that are inhumane or out of humanity, things like that, right? So that bothered me a lot. And then I reached out to you.
Did the act bother you more, or the comments from the netizens?
The comments bothered me more, because the act itself,
You understood,
I understood.
but what people said about it.
What people said about it was just horrible. It's horrible that it made me
Beyond
cry.
belief,
Yeah,
always.
beyond belief. I was angry. I was sad. I was just crying.
Right.
Like, why am I crying? And then I reached out to you, talked to you, and I said, "This cannot do it. I this is just too much, right?" So it stopped there for a bit, right? So we talked on the phone.
Yes.
And then told my sister and my brother-in-law about it. And then she was like, and she told me, you know what, Boya, tell my story. Help people. Yeah, and that was it. And then I was waiting for Azlan's decision
To come on board.
And then he got triggered by another news. So I think...
Yeah, what was it?
I think that's
Do you remember what was the news?
there was two, right? The slashing and the
That was another thing.
Oh yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I was reading some news lah, basically where
Something like what Dr. Suraya mentioned earlier.
something like she mentioned, where a story of a mother who just gave birth, a few months down the line, and this ranges broadly. Some of these mothers are having a child for the first time. Some of these mothers are having a fourth child
Right.
before they have to go through this. And somewhat the situation ended up in tragedy. And just by reading it, I know exactly what she had to go through, because seeing it firsthand, I know for sure the mother was not in control of herself. Okay. But due to the lack of support, tak ada orang around ke during that time,
Betul.
not enough family members, tak ada sister macam Suraya, okay.
Knowledge changes everything.
Yeah, and then the situation ended up in tragedy.
Yeah.
And somehow, post-tragedy, the blame falls upon the victim. Okay, because they're the victims in this story. Okay. And ada yang kena masuk jail for 10 years, and then of course, the name calling by people and everything. So
The judgment.
and
No, everyone becomes a victim, Azlan.
yeah,
The mom becomes a victim because she's then labeled a murderer. The husband then becomes a victim. The whole entire family becomes a victim. And then the child obviously is a victim as well.
Yeah.
And the only way to change that whole cycle is through knowledge, because knowledge changes everything. If people were more aware, if people understood these symptoms, you would be able to catch it early, right?
Yeah.
But because, a lot of these stories, every time when I read them and when the interviews come in, typically, because obviously it happens with women, then when you interview the husband, then the husband will say things like, he didn't see it. He saw that the wife was going through some sort of, he said, depressed or depression, but he thought it was okay, it was nothing. And there was even this one incident where the person living in the house behind their home was actually a health clinic. So if only they knew, it was just, the help was just there. But because the awareness wasn't there, because you didn't have prior knowledge, so they weren't able to catch it early. So the incident, then the tragedy happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, Azlan.
Yeah, so that was my trigger point.
Yeah.
Similar to her, I was like,
and he just like, let's do this. You know what? Let's do this.
I cannot have survived what I just survived and not talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So the first step I took was I'm in a public speaking club. I used this as a topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
cute.
I use it as a topic as to bring a child into the world. What is the process? It's a tough process that is usually the burden is so not say unfair.
Unbalanced.
It's unbalanced towards women.
Yeah.
So as a guy, I wake up every day sama je rasa.
Betul.
Okay, but the woman has to go through so many changes. Pre-birth. During pregnancy, during labor. Postpartum, after labor. Oh my god, it's a lot of changes.
It is. Confinement for me is the hardest.
Yeah, so
Can't do what you like.
yeah, so I took it upon myself, and I think what I'm trying to do is speak to men more.
Speak to men more.
Yeah, just pay more attention. Pay attention. Just pay attention. Just look properly. And understand that we're different. That our body is wired differently, and you need to appreciate it. Okay. So jangan ambil mudah lah. Whatever that you see with your own eyes. So that was the trigger point, and
here you are.
And here I am. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Encik Azlan. I'm sure a lot of people appreciate it, especially being, from the point of view of a husband and a caregiver, care partner, being able to talk about this openly. Now we want to move a little bit more on. So now, both of you are together with your dad and your mom, and now you're seeing a psychiatrist. You brought your sister to see a psychiatrist. So then, what happened? Was she okay to see a psychiatrist?
No, she was in no mental capacity to do that. So that's where I knew, Azlan has to be there as the next of kin to actually consent for some sort of consultation even.
Okay.
Because my sister cannot decide for herself at all.
Okay.
I met him there because we made an appointment. This was the first emergency appointment. So Azlan went in. I think Azlan can talk a bit more about how it feels like to be in there for the first time. I was just waiting outside.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything happened so fast though.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. Okay, my first experience with a psychiatrist was not that good.
Was not a pleasant one.
It was not a pleasant one because, again, I came from a place of not knowing.
Yeah.
You know, because we were there because Suraya said you need to go see a psychiatrist, and I just followed her advice. And I couldn't tell what's the difference between psychiatrists and psychologists, even to the point when we are talking to the psychiatrist.
During the time.
Yeah. So the way psychiatrist works is a bit different because they will try to prescribe you medication. Okay. And I'm a bit skeptical. I have to be honest. I was really skeptical.
Actually, I'm not because I've been through it. So it's
Yeah. So I was skeptical because I felt like, is he just trying to sell my sister drugs or something? You know, so that's what I felt. You know, but of course, after that, what happened after that? How did I?
Yeah, so it was a days for him as well.
Yeah.
I'll try and fill in the blanks.
Yeah,
so
please.
I told Azlan she needs medications because she needs to rest. Her mind needs to rest. She's not able to do it herself. We need help. We need professional help to do that. If she is not sleeping well and her mind is somewhere else, we're talking about one of the worst things that could happen, right? So my mind goes there right away. So with medications, while she's resting, then we can slowly figure things out because we need to give it time. Time also requires patience, but time also makes you haste. We need to do something. We want to do what's the plan from now on, you know? Because if let's say you're hit with a physical illness, like physiologically, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's very different. Even though, you know, we have a sort of like a treatment plan and then we see you, okay, we need to treat that. Okay. Or if it's not what you can see, it's something that we can see on the scans, right? So when it comes to psychiatry, it's very different. It's a completely different ball game. Like I don't even try to play it because
It's not the same way
it's not
on
the
how
same.
you measure a physical condition.
Correct. Yeah, and she was not eating at all.
Yeah.
So I straight away go into a mode where I've been in an episode, right? You do liquid diet, a lot of sugar, lots of water because you know that you can't keep anything in. So it was things like that, you know. What broke me a bit more, like, you know, I had to swap my sister. You know, no, I was like, no, my sister can do it herself, you know. But to the point that it was like that, it was heartbreaking. But the medications helped.
Yeah.
For a bit.
Now I remember.
Yeah.
After we got the medications.
Yes.
From that point onwards, I started reading. That's when I started reading. Okay, what's the difference between a psychologist and psychiatrist? What does medicine do? You know, and why
does it help?
Yeah, how does it help? Why is it important to speak properly to peers who are going through
Mental challenges.
Yeah, so I went through quite a rabbit hole. I watched a lot of videos, looked for a lot of websites, and
we also, because I also told Azlan, okay, after we see psychiatrists, we make an appointment to see the psychologist.
Psychologist, correct? Yeah.
Then we try talk therapy because, you know, we do both. But first is medication, and maybe because my sister couldn't speak for herself, so whatever symptoms, Azlan had to tell the psychiatrist to prescribe the right thing too. That's a very big challenge because she might not present the live ongoing symptoms right there and then to the psychiatrist. Me too, you know, like how would you diagnose if you can't see the symptoms live in action, right? So that takes time. Yeah.
So the more I understood, the more I realized, the more I stopped getting emotional. The more I realized that we should treat this like orang kaki patah, you know, where you need medication, you need rest, and then you need to observe progress. And from that point onwards, I really macam took it like a macam you sakit lah, macam, you know, and it's a patient and she will recover. You just need macam I've been having flu for the past 5 days. I cannot recover in one day. You just have to, you know, take your ubat and see how you progress. From that point onwards, I think that once the mentality shifted, the attitude it became much easier.
Okay. So now you understood it is a condition.
It is a condition.
Dia bukan mengada-ngada.
Yeah. So I pun tak ada panic. Okay, now the moment you see it, if I were to see somebody go through something similar again, you know, like, don't get emotional about it. Take correct actions. Go see a psychiatrist. Go see a psychologist. Get a diagnosis. You know, give the ubat-ubat yang you're supposed to get.
Whatever that is needed. So other than the medication and therapy, what else?
So that's the thing. To even get to the final diagnosis, it took us, I think about a month after. No?
I think so, yeah.
About a month plus after.
Yeah.
Because my sister's condition was not improving with medication. Obviously, there were follow-ups, talk therapy. So those were the things, right? The standard ones. But she wasn't improving. And then slowly, even on medications, I suppose when you're not used to the medications just yet, you know, it's not in your body just yet. It takes time for things to rewire again. But medications only hold the fort.
Yep.
Yeah, other than that, there are things that you need to do. So she was
dipping.
Yeah, she was dipping again. I saw more or less the same pattern. She doesn't remember, but she can at least know how to put on her makeup at that point. Even a blusher. I was so happy. We even managed to celebrate my birthday. And she picked out earrings as well. So I was really happy. Oh my God, my sister, she's coming back. But, and then she started talking to me. She started repeating herself again. I was like, okay, this is not...
She'll have like that
those moments,
10 minutes of being her, and then suddenly she slips down again. And then she resurfaces again. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
In and out.
In and out, in and out. So that point of time, and then I was like, okay. So my mom, baby, one room, my sister, one room, right? Cannot sleep together at all. I didn't want to say it, but they understood what I meant. Okay? Just big no, cannot sleep together at all. I know I sound cruel, but let's not be sorry for another day, you know? I'd rather do that, make that tough call, than regret it, right? Because...
Did you tell her though?
No. I said that you just need rest, but just to family members, they're not allowed to sleep together at all, not even in the same bedroom. She's not even allowed to be alone, maybe. That's like on the day one, I noticed that.
Right.
And then big breakdown, and then we had another emergency appointment. And then finally Azlan said, you know, but yeah, I think maybe this time you should go in. Because he went in twice before that, right? Two sessions. 3 sessions.
And then what happened?
About 3 sessions, I think.
Yeah. So that next emergency appointment, that was the long one. Yeah. So I was in there with the psychiatrist for a long time. We discussed. We managed to discuss a lot of things, and then he managed to come up with the final differential diagnosis.
Right.
So that's where I found out, you know. So in the first place, the initial diagnosis was something else, because she didn't fit the PPD, postpartum depression. I know that somehow in my heart. I would love to think that it was that, but I was right. It was not PPD at all. It's because it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's not the classic symptom.
Right.
You know, she had a happy pregnancy. In the first 2 months when the baby was out, she was happy. You know, not sleeping here and there is fine, but she was happy. In generally, she was still like my sister. It only set like 2 months after. The baby wasn't even 3 months yet. Yeah. So, is it PPD or is it not? Well, maybe it's really, really delayed, right? And then so the diagnosis was revised, and then 2 differential, and then we confirmed it in Kuching, because we need to see how the medications would work, because the medications change completely.
Yeah.
It's nothing, even I myself was like, wow, I only remember learning about this in uni.
Yeah.
Or like some of my patients would be on it, some posting that I had, but wow, you know, the medications, the right medications really was something. So everything that she has had, like, you know, anxiety punya medication, anti-anxiety, or mood regulators, or what you call them, SSRIs. It just a little bit here and there. You know, maybe put her to sleep a little bit here and there.
But it wasn't really helping.
No, because the hallucinations, the
Were
one
still
that
there.
that tires someone out like
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, you're in a loop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The best way to say it's like you're in a Alice Wonderland loop. Imagine.
Yeah.
So after that, then it starts going away a little
Right.
bit.
So you got better with the
Got better
medication.
slowly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Slowly with the medication.
Yeah.
What other help did you guys?
Okay, first of all, to our viewers and listeners, we apologize if, let's say, our timeline is all over the place.
Yeah,
You know, we're just jumping here and there with our story, right? Right. So, I think the first few things that we did right was, number one, having person with experience to seek help. Number two is to separate the baby from the mother
Yeah,
immediately.
sure. Immediately, that's what it is.
And number three is, I think, treating it as a serious condition rather than just something nanti you'll get over it kind of thing. So there are a few themes that I think goes into that. Number one is the importance of family support. Okay, people say it takes a village to raise a kid. Okay, so growing up, you go through your teenager years and then you go into your young adulthood. You are going to be quite separated from your family. You're just growing as your own person. But the moment you have a kid, that's when you realize, if we didn't have the family support, we wouldn't survive that, to be honest. We would not. Okay, if there was no you or ma or abba or whoever, everybody else in the picture, you wouldn't have survived that. Family support, that's number one. Number two is to be humble enough to know that you don't know everything. You see something that's wrong, but to what you thought comfortable, right? We want to be seen that I know, you just get a grip, you just need to be humble. Okay, maybe I don't know what's going on. Let's explore. And
So important.
Yeah, and the third theme would be I think separating the baby from the mother too was also quite a...
That was immediate, actually.
Yeah, it was quite
Forgot
immediate.
to
That
say
was
that.
a
Immediate.
great move. Okay? And then by the time she recovered and then she realizes how happy the baby is growing up, I think that the overall circle much more beautiful.
That's bittersweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I did tell my sister, it will go away. She kept asking me, will it go away? I said, it will.
Which part of it?
All of it. All the things
The
that she
thoughts.
hears, the thoughts, the feelings. But I did tell her that be prepared, some depression might linger.
Yeah.
And then when you come back later, you might feel guilt and shame so it doesn't stop here.
Yes.
Your psychosis will stop, right? But what happens after that can push you into a different mental health illness completely too.
Yeah.
It can be anything. So when she started to understand more, and she said, I told her that maybe you feel ashamed that whatever that you don't remember you did, what you said, or the part where you missed out on your baby. All of that is natural thoughts and feelings of what came after the whole trauma.
Right.
So I was not giving her flowers and fairy tale ending, no, because I wanted her to, because I know she can hear it at that point of time. She's able to process that information. So at least I don't want her to feel like, it's all done. Because that would actually make things worse later.
Right.
Because-
So how is she now?
Much better. I mean, Azlan is obviously her best friend.
Yeah.
So he would know more things, like if whatever that she's feeling. I know what I know. That sometimes she did feel a bit low,
Yeah.
while she was getting out of the psychosis part, and it's kesian lah, but so proud, she held it.
Yeah.
If it were me, that is a living nightmare. I mean, I went through my own,
Yeah.
and that was already
Very difficult.
difficult. Like,
Yes.
this is, you're like on a tripping on, I don't know, man. So, wow, Allah is great. Don't know how she got that strength to hold on. She did hold on to it, she did hold really well whenever the hallucinations were there. She could repeat after me, okay, those are not real. It's just in my head. She can do that. So actually it does work, You hold them with you and then you tell them, okay, it will go away. I
Specifically for people that
Yeah,
go through
yeah.
hallucinations, yes.
Yeah. You cannot just say, you cannot dismiss it.
Yes.
You're supposed to dismiss it in a very safe way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safe and gentle.
Safe and gentle.
Yeah.
Just know that don't make them feel like they're crazy.
Yeah. Don't minimize their pain.
Yeah. Not reduce it.
Yeah, don't reduce it.
And I think people are very quick to have a very lazy reduction.
Betul.
Senang je, snap out of it.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
To answer you if she has recovered or not.
Cheers.
Okay, so my wife is a very strong woman. Okay, very feisty as well. She can get very feisty.
Yeah.
Okay, so as of recent, we've been having fights again. So that's when I know that things are back to normal.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can get annoyed at her too without me feeling like, I don't care how you feel. I want to feel how I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
It's always nice to hear the good news at the end. Alhamdulillah. Now, maybe Dr. Sorry, a little bit before we end this segment too is, so you mentioned earlier how frustrated you were when, with the lack of awareness and specifically understanding when it comes to postpartum psychosis, and you as well, Encik Azlan, referring to one of the cases that you read as well. Now, if you can elaborate maybe a little bit more, what can we all do better?
I mean, first of all, having the awareness is something sometimes easier said than done. To be honest as well, people don't educate themselves until there's a need to.
Yes.
Yeah. So either it might be work triggered, or you require for your work, or it's your friend, it's a family member. But it doesn't hurt to read the news and then just press an extra button. You know what? I'm going to read up.
And not judge first.
Not judge first.
Yeah.
So that's one. Number two, before you jump into anything, also listen. Just listen to what they have to say. Sometimes just by observing, you learn more.
Yeah.
And so that you can sort of ask the right questions eventually.
Right.
You might not ask the right question immediately, but you can get there. Because sometimes, that's the hurdle.
Yes.
Yeah, because listening to
Understand.
Yeah,
Listen to
understanding.
understand.
Listen to understand.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And I hate this whole stigma around mental health in general.
Me too.
Yeah, I hate it.
All of us too.
Yeah, I hate it with prejudice.
And specifically when it comes to postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis,
Yeah.
I think there is a need to take back the word meroyan. Okay, because the moment you say the word meroyan, you will imagine a lady who's just lost it and going all crazy, right?
Yes.
So
Even in a joke, right?
yeah, it becomes a joke, right?
right.
Yeah.
True.
But because this concept has obviously existed in our culture
Betul.
because of that word. Okay.
Yes.
That is a psychosis, And what you need to realize is meroyan tu bukannya macam dia get pissed off and marah-marah. She is not in control of herself. Okay. There needs to be a way to, redefine and re-educate people what the word meroyan means. It's not a joke lah. Okay. People's lives are at stake.
Babies' lives are at stake.
Yeah. So,
Definitely.
yeah, babies' lives are at stake. We need to somehow remove that stigma from that word or find a new word.
I think it's such a good point. This is very much in line with the work that we do all the time. It's not just the word meroyan. It's even using the word depressed loosely, using the word OCD loosely. Because the moment you use clinical terms loosely, when a person really comes in having depression, having OCD, having postpartum psychosis, then you don't treat them as it's something serious. That's the harm, the biggest harm of it. And I think one of the other points, Encik Azlan, you mentioned earlier about coming from a place where you don't know everything, and also to acknowledge that you probably don't know. It is so important, because that in itself is also part of knowledge. And I think that takes humility. And, this whole journey is a journey.
Yeah. When you ask me also, like, what else can we do better? I will say from woman to woman. Again, I'm single, never been married, I'm not a mom.
You're not promoting yourself, huh?
No.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Single and available.
Because I would love to experience motherhood directly like that.
Yes.
But PPD, PPP, it doesn't discriminate.
Oh,
okay.
But
At all.
anyone can get it.
Maybe number 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
Okay, or you may not get it at all. So be kind to each other.
Yes.
Your experience of motherhood is different than another person's motherhood. Okay?
Yep.
It's a completely different journey, because I've seen the stigma not just in public. It's even in the healthcare community itself.
Definitely.
It's quite a shame. But I do have comrades and people in the industry or in healthcare itself. Are very passionate about it too.
Yes, definitely.
So the difficult conversations that we need to have can never really be held at a lunch table talk. It would be nice if we can talk about it that way.
Right.
Not because that won't be a gossip, because we're talking about something.
Yep.
Rather than, shooing away someone's, she's not feeling well because she was depressed, apparently. It's normal to feel depressed, people. Feeling depressed is a normal thing to feel, but being clinically depressed is something
totally
else.
different. Yeah.
So, like you said, we try not to taint those terms, and then it will do a lot of damage to the work that's been done.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So true.
It's like, how...
And we work so hard to provide all this awareness, and then people come in, Puan Anita tak
then
dapat
pump on
tiket bus balik kampung, depressed betul. You see?
Apa dia nak depressed sangat?
In 8 years of work, that's it. Just with that one statement.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you build something for 10 years, it just takes 1 second to really blow
That's
it
it.
apart. So I think that's that. This is just what I observe, right? From other mothers to other mothers. Some mothers are very compassionate. They understand that their experience is not the same as whomever they're speaking to. Some people actually expect, no, you know what, I'm like this before. I'm like, wow, I'm here as someone who's eating popcorn. I'm amazed, how would you deduce that to something so simple?
Right.
Because everyone is different. So I think we need to have that. That's one. And then, apart from that, maybe checking in with your GP from time to time, especially after maybe you give birth. You don't see your gynae as much as you have to anymore. You see more of your peds, right? And then what I remember with Azlan and Fira said, their peds actually asked about how you doing with taking care of the baby. It's a peds, yeah? It's not the gynae. It's amazing how peds actually also pay more attention to it. So I think in the healthcare world, we need to have some sort of a bit more structured way to, intercept.
Right, because everyone is involved, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, because it's not just the child, it's also the mom, it's also the dad.
Yeah.
Right?
In the UK, it's different because we have a social health worker, right? Here we don't exactly have a social health worker, but we have something similar. So we can just insert it here and there. I mean, klinik ibu dan anak after your pregnancy.
Follow-ups.
Follow-ups kat situ. I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe the doctors won't see it, but maybe the nurses would. So I
there are lots of ways.
Yeah, small little ways would go a big...
Can save lives.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Suraya. Thank you very much, Encik Azlan. We'll take a short break and we'll come back in our final segment, conclusion section, we want to talk a little bit about maybe what are your words of encouragement, advice through both of you, your own journeys to caregivers or care partners that are currently supporting their loved ones going through either postpartum depression, psychosis, or any type of mental struggles. Right after this, in Real Conversations with Anita. We'll be right back. All right, so we're at the last segment of this podcast. I know time flies. Maybe Dr. Suraya and also Encik Azlan. Last bit, second last question. Most valuable lessons that you guys gain throughout this experience. Maybe you want to go first, Dr. Suraya.
Love, really. Yeah. It's out of love.
Love.
And faith in God. Yeah.
In Encik Azlan, what would you say?
The biggest lesson for me is, again, like a lot of life events that a person has to endure. You grow up learning more things, and now I know more things compared to who I was before. And yet again, you go through something that humbles you again.
Yes.
Okay, and I think part of being an adult is just realizing that you really don't know almost anything in life.
Yes, I know.
No matter how smart I try to appear or how much I think I've racked up knowledge on a lot of topics, right? Then you're just going to get a sucker punch yet again that, again, you don't know this. And
That's what they say, the paradox of learning.
Yeah. So the biggest learning for me is, I think, again, it reinforces that I really do not know a lot of things about life. And again, it just reinforces my approach to how I approach life. When I see somebody, I do not assume anything about you. I do not know anything about you.
Humbles you, again.
Yeah, there are a million ways that your life can turn out to be, right? So,
and might be completely wrong.
Yeah. So I just approach things, from an open book perspective.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. That's such a great lesson. Thank you very much, Encik Azlan. Now, last one, guys, for the both of you, maybe a message of hope, or what would you like to convey to those who are struggling out there? Either, a care partner, their family members, husband, wife, and also people struggling with mental health challenges. What would you say?
Talk, reach out to anyone. Doesn't have to be a professional right away. Just by reaching out. If, let's say, it's not the response that you're getting, don't give up on it, because someone will come along.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that it's just part and parcel of getting there. It's tough, but you can get there. And if you're struggling to take care of someone who's struggling, get that help too. You need that help. Just like what people say on the plane, you put on your life jacket first before you can help someone else. It's the same thing. Even for us doctors, if we don't take care of ourselves,
you can't take care of another person.
I'm gonna bound to have. Yeah. So just getting help. Humility.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're humble enough, I think it's easier for you to actually ask for help.
Betul.
Yeah.
But it's something that you need to learn, kan? We need to learn this.
Yeah. And be able to listen to constructive criticism. I know it's so cliche, but
it's true.
It's so true. But there is an art to receiving them too.
Yes. I agree.
So you can learn that by getting help, actually. So yeah.
Betul. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Dr. Suraya.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here, for all your insights, for doing what you do, for being so supportive, for helping out, for providing these awareness. I'm sure it's helping, those who are listening and tuning in right now.
Thank you to my sister, actually.
Yep.
Because she let us talk about
Alhamdulillah. Hope to see her maybe in a podcast one day.
Yes, one day.
Inshallah. Encik Azlan, last words from you.
To those who are caring, supporting a fellow peer, first of all, I hope you find this podcast.
Yes.
All right. And I think the biggest feeling that a lot of people would feel is, shame or guilt or helplessness. And when you're in that kind of emotions, it's so easy to feel alone, and that is the biggest enemy of, I'm going through something that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Just remember that, there's so many of us out here, people inside this room, the three of us, we just like, there's so many. You're really not alone in feeling what you're feeling and carrying what you're carrying. Right? So remove that shame, start talking, and just reach out. I would say. Yes.
That is so profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so important for all of us to know that we're not alone in this journey. And the more people come out and speak about it, the less lonely we are going to feel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much, Encik Azlan. Thank you very much, Dr. Suraya. I think it's so true. If we're in despair, really there is so much help out there. But again, like what you said, you knew what the pathway was. Yeah. But a lot of people don't. So that is why, echoing what you said, this is a resource, and we hope people find this podcast and specifically this episode if you are indeed, supporting your loved ones, and if you yourself are going through either postpartum depression or psychosis, or you are currently in despair, feeling trapped or hopeless in your recovery journey. Hopefully, whatever that is being shared by both Dr. Suraya and also Encik Azlan is helpful, which it is. There is so much insights. So thank you once again, guys. Hopefully we will be able to see your sister and your wife one day for our show as well. And we wish her full and speedy recovery. And thank you both. And I hope you guys will continue advocating for this cause and maybe becoming one of our champions and volunteers at MIASA, inshallah, one day. So thank you so much, everyone. This is Real Conversations with Anita today with our topic, the stigma surrounding postpartum psychosis and depression. How can care partners help? With Dr. Sharifah Suraya Al-Barakbah and also Encik Azlan Hatim bin Abdullah with me, your host, Anita Abu Bakar. We'll see you on Wednesday via Spotify, Real Conversations with Anita, and also YouTube, MIASA Malaysia. Take care, everyone, and take care of each other. Bye.
This is Real Conversations with Anita, a mental health podcast brought to you by Iltizam by Equinus and MIASA Malaysia.